everybody. We're here to interview Pastor Trevor. He is the main person, along with Sister Anne, who pioneered Manna House. Am I saying this right, Pastor Trevor?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. I've never been called the main person before, but we were instrumental in starting Manna House 12 years ago.
And can you just tell us briefly what Manna House is all about and what you do?
Yeah, it's very simply feeding people in need, feeding the homeless, but we feed anyone who comes in through the doors of the church. We will feed. If someone needed a meal, we'll give them a meal.
And how did this actually start, and how long has this been running for?
It's been going 12 years. Over that time, we've seen great changes. But it started with a visit to a church in Bradford, the Abundant Life Church, where we knew and heard that they did something similar to what we felt and thought there could be a need within Stoke-on-Trent. And that need was feeding people who were maybe marginalised, people who were homeless.
So how did you actually realise, or how did you find out that there is a need in Stoke-on-Trent? How did you actually come about doing this work?
We went to Bradford, and seeing what we saw, Steph, which was quite, it was an illuminating time. We saw things that we've never seen before.
Exactly what do you mean, Pastor Trevor?
Many people who look very, very poor and needy, very dirty, and looking very unhealthy, coming to this huge church for a Sunday meal, which we were just astonished and amazed at. But we're talking not just 30 or 40, there was 300 people packed into this hall to have a Sunday afternoon lunch.
So when you went there, you obviously brought back that vision, if I call it a vision, back to Stoke-on-Trent.
I would say that's right. We felt that then what we'd seen, what God had laid on our hearts, that if there's homeless people in Bradford, then obviously there must be a need in Stoke-on-Trent. So we came back feeling that we should start something of a similar vein, which was to do a basic meal. A basic meal on a night that would be right for us all. So we chose Thursday night to do very much a meal that was called chuck-in.
Okay.
Now chuck-in is a meal that's full of good things, but it's things that you wouldn't think would be the ideal menu for anyone. So this lady who'd worked at a soup kitchen told us how we prepared this meal. And so we all put a few pounds in out of our pockets. And we bought some basic essential items that we thought we'd need, which was bread and butter, and then we had beans and tomatoes and soup. And of course we had no idea what chuck-in was until she obviously opened these cans, and what she did was tip all this stuff into one pan.
Right.
That's why you call it chuck-in.
So basically it started as a soup kitchen.
As a soup kitchen.
Because I know we have seen it, me and the crew have actually seen it today, that you actually give like a 3-course meal, is that right? Yeah.
Things have moved on. They've progressed quite quickly. From being a chuck-in to coming to a place where we felt that we could do just something a little bit more than the very basic soup kitchen type thing. So we started to progress to doing shepherd's pie and meat and potato pie and all those kind of things that would fill bellies. But of course, Steph, you don't start with 300 people. We opened the doors, and we had no one came. No one came.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah. We came and did all the things we should do, which was went out to the hostels, YMCA,
Right.
the Granville, as it was called in those days in Hanley, which was a hostel for homeless people
Right.
and needy people.
Right.
And of course the library where we knew people would meet. So all these places we went round and give them a flyer saying when we were going to open, at what time, and of course we opened on the appointed day, and no one turned up.
Really?
No one turned up at all.
Wow.
So myself and my son decided that we would have a look around Hanley to see what was going on. So we rode round Hanley a couple of times, and we went down by the Granville in Hanley just to see who was there, if there was anyone there. And we come across two young men who were hiding behind a wall.
Right.
And we shouted and just said, look, there's a meal, lads, if you want a meal, come and join us. I'll take you to have a meal. So
Excuse me, were these homeless people, Pastor Trevor?
We didn't know who they were. They were.
They were?
They were.
Yes.
Obviously, we didn't know until they jumped in the car that they were.
Oh,
but they were. And, of course, they had an addiction issue. Both of them were drug addicts.
Right.
But they got in my car, and I floated around to church. I thought, we'll get here quick.
Right.
In case they decide to escape when they see it's a church. So we pulled up outside church, and they said, where are we going? I said, we're going in here. So they came marching into the church, and of course that was the beginning of the story. But it's an interesting story in as much as Christians, you always wonder what God's going to do, and if He's going to do or reveal something to us. And that happened on that particular night. Ian Dale, one of the first members who came to Manor House, there was only two. Ian came, and he had a foot that was swollen like I've never seen before.
Right.
It was quite sad to see, and he was limping around, and he was infected, which often they get, when you get into bad places.
That's right.
He was carrying this infection, and his foot was enormous. And we took him upstairs, and Sheila Brayford, one of our helpers, who was instrumental in supporting us when we began. Sheila was a nurse at that time.
I see.
And Sheila had a look at Ian's foot, and she decided that she should bathe it and clean it. Wow. And of course Anne was downstairs on the foyer, in the foyer, and she saw Sheila washing Ian's dirty feet.
Yes.
And Anne knew that God said to her, that's what I've called you to do.
Wow.
To wash dirty feet.
Wow.
So it's quite a humbling experience.
It is indeed.
And that's gone on throughout the years, that we've seen many people who are hurting and broken.
So you don't only provide food on a Thursday night, so you actually give them more than that, right?
Yeah, we obviously cater for the just very much basic needs, and basic needs are food and clothing, and the bare essentials, really, stuff of what you need for the journey.
And what happened of trying to rehouse these people, Pastor Trev? Do you try to help them, signpost them to the right departments?
Yeah, we do, Steph, and most of them are quite, and they're quite intelligent in as much as they know where to go for help. If that's intelligent is the right word. They're quite tuned into what they need to do.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, the issue is the addiction stops them from moving on with their lives simply because there's really no support, no help.
It must, it is wonderful to have heard that you have been awarded a Queen's Award for the work that you have all done here in Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah.
What was that like? What did it feel? I know that you never expected to win the award. You're not here for the awards, and how did that feel?
We felt very privileged to be acknowledged that we are doing something for the community. and something that would again show something of the heart and passion of the church here in Hanley.
Because when I was downstairs and I look at the big stand and the poster on the wall, and then I'm hearing what you just said, that when you first started, it never came into your mind that the work that you are doing is going to progress and really touch people's lives. And of course, you know that you've been recognized for doing such a wonderful work. And I know that Sister Anne, she has put just as much hours and effort and love into this work. But one thing I'd like to know, there must have been challenging days where people have been violent, aggressive towards the staffs. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we've never had lots of issues of aggression. In years past, there was a different kind of spirit around, particularly with the older gentlemen who had addiction issues, mainly with drink. But the younger generation then, they were taking drugs, but there was certainly a different kind of spirit. They seemed to be in control of the senses. Unfortunately, with the age in which we're living, we're finding an increase of behaviour that is quite frightening to see, where people seem to be out of their minds and not in control of the senses. And that's not good for anybody to see, and that's not good for anybody to be around and about. But the challenges, Steph, are often not from the people to us. It's from each other. They sometimes aggravate each other, and it's simply because if they've been drinking, they're not in a good frame of mind. So those are the challenges that come along, where people are really just not in a good place.
This has got to go beyond doing good works. What do you think really inspires you into doing what you are doing, you and your wife, Sister Anne, and along with all the rest of the staffs, because you have got some beautiful staffs here who've been with you all these years? What do you think, and I'm sure that you'll be able to speak on behalf of all of them, what do you think inspires you, motivates you into giving all those precious hours?
It can only be one thing, Steph, and that's the Lord God Almighty. He's is so gracious to us, to grant us the grace to do and to be something of a light to those in darkness, and to love those who are mainly unlovable by a world in which we live. Many people, understand rejection. The people who come in here for food understand rejection because society rejects them. They're rejected by their families because of course, the issues that addiction brings. And so that's what we know for sure, is it's just by the grace of God, because we know there is something better, and we know they can choose something better.
While we were doing some, we were taking some photos downstairs and just had a very quick word with the people. There were actually one or two men who actually put themselves out and told us what a fantastic work that you are doing. And yes, by the way, Pastor Trevor, the chicken was absolutely beautiful. Yes, you do give good food too. So yeah, the people are actually grateful, appreciative what you're actually doing for them. And we know that there are one or two people out there who have actually been changed because of the selfless effort and love that you've given to them.
Well, we've never thought it was our position or our job, our responsibility to preach at them.
No.
But we've always been able ready and prepared to tell them what they need to hear.
Absolutely.
Because when you know change,
yes.
when you know you've had a life change,
Yeah.
then you can share something of good news.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only right that I should share good news with anyone in need. So the people who come in here, they have a need, but I know that if they find what I've found, Steph, that Jesus Christ is the answer to
Mm-hmm.
every need,
Mm-hmm.
then lives can be changed and will be changed. Well, we're here just to, love and encourage, support, help anyone on this journey,
Mm-hmm.
and we just trust God then to do what He has to do, and He's the one who touches lives for His glory.
Pastor Trevor, thank you so much for having us tonight. Thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing your story to us, and I know it's going to inspire the world.